that was my favorite memory was experiencing Pascha for the first time.
When I was at the Pontifical College Josephinum, I went to the parish St. John Chrysostom Church in Columbus, Ohio. And if you've ever been to a church service and everything was perfect, then you can relate to this. The sun shone in at the greatest angle. The lighting was perfect. The icon screen just shined. The singing was angelic. Everything that could go right went right. It was so ideal that you felt God throughout the service.
My favorite church memory is kind of an odd memory, and it's probably more because it has to do with my grandfather. But when I was a little kid, I don't know if I was maybe 8 or 9. I was I was serving on the altar at a Maronite Catholic church in Boston, and my grandfather was a 65-year-old altar server too. And I remember I'd served on the altar with him, and then after we were in the sacristy in the back room, and he was giving me unblessed communion or unconsecrated communion, and it was just there aren't a whole lot of really distinct memories like that, but I mean that was one of my fonder memories of my grandfather when I was a little kid.
My favorite church memory, I always liked being in church at night, and rarely went to Saturday evening liturgy, but I think my most favorite times in church were during Holy Week. So it'd be the Vespers of Holy Week, maybe Thursday, I think comes to memory, Holy Thursday. And I loved chanting the Psalms. I knew very little about it at that time, but there was something about being in the church when the lights were low, looking at the stained glass windows and chanting the Psalms that really had a profound impact on me.
One particular memory that comes to me was a moment, a part of the Mass where the priest says, "Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." And he holds up the Eucharist at that point. And I heard that 1,000 times, as a kid growing up. I went to Mass probably 3 times a week because I was in parochial schools, and it just you hear it but you don't take it in. But there, for some reason, on this particular day, he held up the Eucharist and said this, and it went all the way in, and I was just struck with the awesome power of God in the liturgy.
The Resurrection Matins has definitely been something that has always been a memory in my mind, and one of my favorite experiences in church growing up. And it's just so exciting because it's Easter, and it's been Lent for 40 days, and you've been pre-sanctified and all these beautiful things, but now getting ready for the big moment. And I can just remember my home parish, we just processing, we would go down the front driveway and actually into the street and go around the front, and it was just so cool because it's all these people coming out of the church and going all the way around, and it was just it's a memory that I always have, and it's just such a beautiful time in the church, and I can't think of a better way to celebrate Pascha.